Welcome to this episode of Athletic Training Chat. We are on with Josh Morales, and we are talking the importance of the secondary setting. I apologize to anybody who's heard me say it over and over again how much I respect anybody and everybody that's worked in the secondary setting, just the importance to the profession, the commitment, the juggling of the schedules, and so many things. I still don't know if I'm personally built to go into that role and just if I would function properly and how I would want to, just with so many moving parts. So this is again my credit to all of you who work in that setting, and just a thank you for doing it. It is so vital to our profession. But Josh talks about why it's important to him, why he thinks it is the front porch of athletic training, and that's really what we get into in this episode. Speaking of the secondary setting, if you haven't heard of Wave On Health yet, it is something potentially worth checking out. It is a comprehensive athlete management platform that provides way more than just a health record or some extra resources, but the potential to ultimately augment what you're doing within your setting with extra advice from athletic trainers virtually, or just more resources to help get to the patients you serve, and might be worth checking out. Check out Wave On Health, tell them that you heard about it on the Athletic Training Chat podcast, and they'll connect with you and see if they might have a solution to help you do your job better and provide the highest quality of care to your patients. As always, we are powered by Mueller Sports Medicine. Can't thank them enough for what they do for us and the profession. Check them out. It's conference time, annual meeting time. If they've got a rep there, check them out. They'll always be willing to chat and come up with ideas to help you find better solutions for your inventory and hopefully add something that is cost effective. But without further ado, please enjoy this episode. Well, welcome to this episode of Athletic Training Chat. We are on with Josh Morales, and we are going to be talking about the secondary setting. Always a big topic, as it should be in the AT profession. We just happened to connect on social media. I think you may have followed us. I just reached out. We kind of decided that this would be a good topic for a lot of reasons that we're going to get into. But before we jump into that, I just wanted to turn it over to you, Josh, to kind of fill in your background on kind of what you've done and how you got to where you are, and then we'll jump in.
Yeah. Hey, great. Finally getting a chance to sit down and have this conversation. A
So
little bit
got
about
the
myself.
technical difficulties that occurred, all the technical difficulties on my
Yeah,
end.
I mean, it's no issue. I mean, internet, it always has problems, especially in the winter. Who knows what could be happening? But hey, we're finally on.
There we go.
Hey, let's just say that we were scheduled for 11:30 instead of 11.
Perfect. Perfect.
Um, but yeah, just a little bit about me. I'm currently working at a high school in Michigan, Dundee High School. It's like a small rural town, a few thousand people. I think the school is about 500 high school students, and then another, I want to say 200, just over 200 middle schoolers. Um, this is my second year there. So I started there in July of 2022. And then before that, I was working 2 years at a high school here in Toledo, Ohio. As a GA, I was at St. John's. And then before that, I actually went to Cal State Northridge for my bachelor's in athletic training. And I'm from California originally. Very, very different world over there with athletic training. Uh, and had a lot of wide experiences there from two separate semesters at a high school for my clinical settings and one at a junior college, one working D1 at my university, and then doing observation hours when I was at community college before I transferred into the program. So had a wide variety of experiences. I've gone anywhere from working the Special Olympics to D1 athletics, to high school, elementary school, age for tournaments and everything. Um, and I've kind of just stuck here, like decided to not stuck here, but I've decided to kind of just stick with the high school setting. I would say it's one of my top two settings that I like to work at. and I really enjoy it. It's a great opportunity, and I'm liking my time here so far.
So that was one of the first questions is, you mentioned with your experiences both in your undergrad and then obviously your graduate work being at a high school while you were doing that. What brought you into that? What was the appeal? Um, we were talking before we started recording. For me, I just don't know that setting would work. Life work wise. With different things. But what brought you to it?
It's interesting. I've gone through so much of a transition and viewpoints of where I've wanted to work. Um, I just know when I kind of first started with the program and kind of got into the profession, the one I least wanted to work in was ironically professional sports. Um, just because the way I view it is, to me, that's the most chaotic schedule that you could even imagine. Although it's something that I would very much consider as uh, it's now that I'm in a high school setting, I'm like, I wonder what the grass is greener on the other side. But ideally, initially, I wanted to work in the junior college setting. It's where I first got my exposure to athletic training. Was at my local community college when I went. I didn't have an athletic trainer at my high school, and got the exposure at Moore Park College, and it was amazing. I truly enjoyed it. The level of athletics you get to work with, and the amount of students you get to work with, the exposure you have to all the levels of sports, and what you can do. Um, High school is very similar. I would say those two settings, in my opinion, are two of the most crucial settings for our profession. Uh, but the one thing that kind of made me lean a little bit more towards the high school, aside from availability of community college positions around my area right now, is a lot of the way I view things and a lot of how I kind of go about situations in life is this one own saying I have, which is an adaptation to another one, is I want to be the person that I wish I had in my life for other people. And I didn't have an athletic trainer in high school. Growing up in California, the profession has very, very wide standings at different locations. You have high schools who don't hire athletic trainers, or I've seen high schoolers who are the school's athletic trainer.
Right.
And I've seen high schoolers who genuinely believe that they are one, and I've seen high schoolers who are just like, I just want to help, and I know that this can help. So two ends of that spectrum of people who have good intentions and people who just are unaware.
Yep.
And I got to see the impact of looking back retrospectively of like how not having someone can be detrimental to people's health and well-being from a personal standpoint, and then also from friends who had to stop playing certain sports because they kept going to the hospital for concussions and didn't have anyone really gradually return them. It was, uh, oh, you feel better, go play, and then someone getting back-to-back concussions within one season, like promising young athletes that just can't really play sports anymore because they sit down with their doctor and they're like, "Hey, like you're not giving yourself enough time. You've been dealing with like post-concussive symptoms for like a significantly long period of time. You should not play contact sports." And it's a culture too that I grew up in where if it wasn't torn or broken, where if you can't see it on an X-ray, you can't see it on an MRI, it's all in your head. It's made up. You are babying it, and it's just that transition of understanding what it's like, and then being there and being that resource for these kids. It's so crucial. Especially you have them going on to their adult lives and working in jobs of various settings where they don't understand how to warm up for any kind of physical activity. They might not understand how to properly train their body in any setting, which whatever their goals are, whether it be just for standard fitness, or if they want to gain hypertrophy for kids who are now getting into with social media, like a powerlifting,
Hmm.
or even just like physique and want to like, we can teach them how to do these things so that they don't hurt themselves. And we can also teach them how to take care of themselves when they hurt themselves. And um, seeing that I didn't have that at a young age, I really want to be able to provide that for kids at that age at this high school. That's kind of a very long answer to
No.
the very simple question of why I ended up working at a high school. But for the area, I've just decided to stick around. Um, especially being a small community, I have the ability to really connect with everyone individually and also families. I mean, I have teachers, coaches, parents of students who will come up to me, and that's one thing that you get at the high school. You don't just get the students, you get the community as people you get to care for, and I find that exciting. I really enjoy that aspect of being able to give back in some sense for me personally.
So you kind of answered the next question, I think, but I just wanted to see if there's anything else that you wanted to kind of focus in on. Are there specific opportunities that you see as unique in the secondary setting as compared to the other ones you've been in? I think you kind of mentioned a few, the access, the community, depending on your where you're at, obviously, but anything else that comes to mind that you'd want to highlight as, unique opportunities in the secondary setting?
You have the opportunity to be creative. Kind of going on just like there are a lot of disadvantages to being at a high school. Um, and you have the opportunity to get creative with and really just make or develop these programs or develop exercises with very limited resources. You are, at least for a lot of people, by yourself, maybe have one other person, and you're working every sport. I've had exposure to any like a multitude of sports, working ice hockey, working wrestling. I've worked field hockey events. I've worked rugby events. I've worked cheer events, and I don't get confined into like one sport where you may, if you're working professional sports, you're working with one sport, you're working with one team,
Sure.
essentially, and I get to see a lot of different things. And right now, being just young in the profession, only this is being my fourth year of experience, I want to be able to absorb as much as possible, get as much exposure to really equip myself and prepare myself to be better. And the high school setting really does give you that opportunity to develop because you see so much more because you're exposed to so many more um, people, so many more sports incidents, and you have the statistics of like injury by incident event or by like, and so you have that ability to see more. Um, and you get to run things yourself. You can really, there's like I'm the CEO of my athletic training facility. I get to figure out ways to adapt and find new systems and grow on my own. And it's its own challenge, but it's also its own benefit that I actually get to enjoy.
What unique challenges have you come across, or does the secondary setting present? You mentioned working by yourself. You know, that's always the one that baffles me the most, in all honesty, is, wanting, I'm sure, wanting to be everywhere at all times and just knowing that it's physically impossible to do at times. So I'd just be curious as to what challenges that you've seen so far.
Ooh, I mean, how much time do we got? This is going to be tough.
Fair.
But I can get to like more of like a concise list. I would say the number one challenge for sure, resources. Depending on the school you're at, being from a small rural school, like resources are huge. It's a big issue for a lot of my colleagues within my league, like of what kind of facility you have. I'm lucky enough to have one of the bigger athletic training rooms in my like for all my coworkers in my league, and I still don't have enough room. uh, and and it's a smaller school with about 500 kids, and I still don't have enough room. I know people who are essentially what the size of a maintenance closet, where they can't even fit their table in their room. Their tables in the hallway. That's a big challenge is not having resources because you work with so many kids, so many different situations, and having to adapt to not having resources is yes, you grow from that, but it's you can never outgrow that challenge. You can
Sure.
never it's always going to be difficult to the point where like, yeah, I've created a system to make it not an issue. No, it's a system that you have to work with the issue. So those resources is definitely a big thing. Your patient to clinician ratio is obscene. It is. And you have the potential patients you have are all the students, faculty, and even family members visiting teams where it's just you 99% of the time. And it's overwhelming, but you really have to be able to understand like the triage aspect of it, where you have to unfortunately tell kids like you gotta wait. I'm sorry. I don't mean to say that you're not important. Um, but this is a system that I've had to create, and it's tough. And the amount of times I say it is what it is in a day is, oh, it's bad. Like you have to be like, I'm sorry, it really is what it is. And I say it to myself with situations I deal with my own work schedule where people are like, oh, like why can't we go do this? Like you're working all the time. I'm like, it is what it is. It's my work schedule. Um, and those are big challenges. You don't really see a lot of opportunity for p- professional growth as well. Uh, the your ability to market yourself, your ability to network is with like while you're working is just within your conference or your community.
Hmm.
Um, and it's harder to network out. You have to go to like professional conferences and really, really try to reach out to network.
Sure.
Um, because it's such a small like nitpick wherever you are. You don't travel very far unless
Yep.
you go to a tournament, and sometimes you can't even travel, so you're just in you're locked. Ooh, excuse me. You're locked in your high school, uh, and you do feel like you're in an island. So it's more of an effort you have to put in actively to reach out with colleagues. Um, and I would always, and it's very useful to create that network, but not having it to begin with is tough. And I would say and people just don't know you sometimes. They don't understand the profession, very minimal acknowledgement, which I mean, that's something you're okay with, but you have to be able to market the profession itself to be able to actually take care of these people.
Yep.
Because if they don't know you, then they don't come to see you. So you never know who you aren't helping or who you can potentially help if they don't know you're around.
Right. What would you have wished that you would have known prior to really getting into the secondary setting that maybe would have helped you be a little bit more set up for success? Not that you haven't had it, or maybe expedited some learning that you're like, man, if somebody would have just told me this would have been a game changer for me as I got started.
That's tough.
I,
Because the
I
things
try to
that
go with
people
the hard hitting ones every once in a
Yeah,
while.
because the things that people still tell you that I wish I would have known, like nothing can prepare you. It's like I was always
That's
taught to be
fair.
adaptable. I wish I would have known how adaptable I needed to be. That's really a big thing. I think every athletic trainer should understand you need to adapt and be prepared to adapt for anything because it can anything that like what can go wrong will go wrong.
Sure.
Um, I had a professor, that was his saying, and it stuck with me forever. And it's very true. So when things go wrong, I'm like, what can
Isn't
go
that
wrong will go wrong. So it is what
Murphy's
it is.
Law, I think? Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty
Murphy's
much.
Law.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. And just sorry, a tangent. One of my favorite responses to that is he's like, we were talking about events and things that were going on scheduling. And he's just like, just know that what can go wrong will go wrong. And I just said, yes. He's like, Murphy's Law. And I'm like, yes, but you're forgetting Kelly Clarkson's law. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And
There you
the
go.
just like this, the hesitation of just like, everyone was like, "What?" And then one person reacted and started laughing, and like everyone just breaking from like the seriousness to just like that was a great like it was just funny. And one of my favorite core memories of something I said that was funny.
There you go.
Those always go hand in hand with each other. Uh,
I saw a joke the other day, and it was like I accidentally combined all good and no worries and said all worries, and it's the most honest thing I've ever said in my life. And sometimes it seems like that could be the the case, especially within our profession.
mhm. And you just that was the thing is you got to be adaptable, learn to roll with the punches, um, and set boundaries. Um, that was probably one of the biggest ones. We're so used to giving up so much of ourselves to help others, which is great. It's what we should do working in healthcare, but it's so important to set boundaries, um, and reasonable boundaries at that. Like
Yep.
you might think because you have the time available that you should always give that time. But there are reasonable boundaries that you should set and that I should have set starting the profession to prevent myself from burning out and prevent many of the nights where I'm just like having a panic attack because of work just being overwhelming, um, and everything going on. And so those are, I would say, those are the few things that I wish I would have told myself is like, look, like set boundaries, create a system for yourself to really manage your stress. Um, take like and a part of those boundaries being like take some time if you need to have mental breaks or if you need to close your office for 10-15 minutes to just sit in silence, doom scroll on social media to just mentally reset. Just do that, set a timer, close your eyes, and let yourself just reset for a little bit for the day. It's totally fine, and it's sometimes it's appropriate. So those are some tips I would have given myself as a young fledgling student.
Fair enough. One of the main reasons that we kind of connected on this, and it'll be in the title of the episode, is kind of the front porch to AT. I obviously can make an argument about why the secondary setting is. I've spent a lot of my career, most of it in the university setting, and it was amazing just whether people had one or not, an athletic trainer in high school, and then what their relationship was with that athletic trainer. Some had ones that they deemed phenomenal, so it was almost like a seamless transition. And there were others that maybe didn't have as much access and didn't even know, as you had mentioned, and it was this whole learning experience of like, hey, we're just because you come to us doesn't mean you're not going to play. And it was an educational thing with that. And again, that's if they even had one, because similar to you, although I'm a little older than you are, I didn't even know what it was in high school. Just not a clue what an AT was. But why do you see this setting as being so important to the profession?
I see the setting being important to the profession because we really are. I hate using this term because it's never accurate from what it comes from. Is like we're the boots in the ground. It's the worst term to say, but we're one of the settings that has exposure to the most people. Where you have your ratio of people where there's me and everyone at the school has access to me. And it's me and them. And sorry, trying to figure out the better way to say it, but we can be their only we might be their only healthcare profession that they have actual access to because we're willing to work with their schedule. Where with high schoolers, you have school, sports, and then with their parents, you have their parents' work schedule. They
Hmm.
have the cost to consider. Um, and I see this in like the high school and also the community college, and then also even the university setting. We might be the only healthcare professional they know of or interact with. Um, you get community college students who will go to a different state. They don't have a primary care provider. They don't know how to set up their own appointments. Uh, the athletic trainers there. Same with the high school setting, where we're walking them through like how to take care of themselves at a young age.
Yep.
Uh, so it's that opportunity to really just mold them in the sense of how to care for themselves properly, and really show them this and introduce it to them at a younger age so that when they get older and go to college, they can be prepared. These are all things that don't get taught in school, and sometimes parents don't have the opportunity to teach them as well as how to take care of themselves. And I feel like it's something that we don't try to do enough of as high school athletic trainers is setting these kids up for success in other aspects of taking care of themselves. So like, hey, like let me kind of walk you through what your appointments are going to look like or how to set up your appointments. And I always will um, applaud any of my friends, coworkers who I see do that. I'm like, you know, you did that. I should have done that, and I've learned that from them. Having the chance of like, look, I'm going to teach you how to set up your appointments. I'm going to teach you what the process looks like because you can't just go and be like, "Can I get an MRI?" And they'll be like, "Yes, give me your insurance card, and here's an MRI."
Right.
Uh, and I feel like that's something that we have the opportunity to do and should be doing a little bit more of, maybe.
Awesome. Anything else around the secondary school athletic trainer and, its importance? Obviously, we've hit on that quite a bit that we haven't touched on that you would like to.
I feel like I've said a lot about it. I'm just worried. I don't know if I've said too much. I can't think of anything else at the moment to say.
That's totally fair. And yeah, I just think what an important role because I work in a clinical setting now, and we're fortunate enough in our area. It's a different health system, but within that, they do a lot of the outreach and they do a great job. But short of when we have even patients that aren't high school athletes come in, and I come in and say, "Hey, I'm the athletic trainer," you get this weird look of like, "You're a what?" Like, I'm not an athlete. Why are you helping me
Mhm.
out? Why are you seeing me? And so for a lot of the general population, they don't know what we do, but to be able to set that foundation of people and that expectation that, as they get older and have kids in sports, that will be the expectation. If I had you and I don't have that experience, but now knowing everything I see around, like, yeah, I'm expect there to be an athletic trainer at most of these tournaments and stuff that when my kids get old enough, they'll be there. Just such an important way to set the stage for the profession. And if people haven't heard me say it before that are listening, everybody who's in that setting, applaud you, thank you. You get it. It's such a it shouldn't be a thankless job, but it can be, and it shouldn't be. So, um, with that, the AT chat questions. Where do you see athletic training going in the next 5 to 10 years?
This is a question I dread constantly because I hate to think of just everything as like being a catastrophe. Athletic training, the way that I see it right now, from social media to hearing from my colleagues and what the job setting, and also being from California and having friends who are, it's really at a boiling point right now. Where I'm seeing that things are getting bad before they get better. Um, I'm just going to speak a little bit on this, but athletic training is not regulated at all whatsoever in the state of California.
Right.
Uh, and it blows and it baffles my mind. It blows my mind that no how that's a thing.
Yep.
Um, and it took catastrophic events with you have the situation with DeMar Hamlin, you have Bronny James,
Yep.
where people are like, and again we say like, oh, like who, like, and their athletic trainer helped them and saved their life. Uh, and then it took, and it's unfortunate that it took that situation. Of course, I'm so happy to see that both of them are okay and both of them are
Absolutely.
participating
Yep.
in sports and
Absolutely.
both of them are alive.
Yep.
It's almost disheartening to see that it took this person to almost lose their life for people to realize the significance of our profession and how many kids, how many people were overlooked, were at risk for decades, like years, decades, for people just to not bat an eye about it.
Totally agree.
And the same thing goes for us as like healthcare professionals is uh we it's tough. It's like I hate saying that we need acknowledgement, but we do need acknowledgement. And it's this thing of like, where do we see value in things? And you invest in things that you find value in.
Yep.
And with such minimal investment in our profession, uh, and just the regulation of it and respecting it in that sense just tells us like that we don't feel valued. And you see that for people who where there's issues with the salaries of athletic trainers, where it was just so standard to overwork yourself for such minimal pay, and for it to not even be, again, viewed as a profession, and it was just the norm. And it's just like, no, like we see now, we see that we aren't valued, and it's this tipping point where it's just things, I guess things have to get really bad for people to be like, okay, wait, hold on, we understand the value now. And it's just sad to see that things are going that way. I do think see things getting better.
Hmm.
I just worry that within the next 5 to 10 years, things are going to get worse before they get better. Because it's kind of that phase right now, um, where, especially within like states like that or situations like that, where um, schools will go without having an athletic trainer, and the only people that are going to be affected by that are the kids at the school,
Right.
that community, and it's not their fault, but it's tough to ask someone to commit countless hours for like wages that don't cut it for what we give and what our education has provided us with, and the knowledge we know and the work we do. And it's this like standstill because you see people leaving the profession and burning out so much. And I feel like things are gonna get to a point where they need to get better in the next 5 to 10 years. And I'm hopeful for that. I just hope that it doesn't get bad. Um, and it's the one like this is one of the reasons why, because I hate thinking about that and viewing that, but it's it's just what I've seen recently, my first 4 years working.
Yep.
Um, and I worry that, but I do see things getting much better for our profession, for athletic trainers. People are going to know, more resources are going to come. Kids are going to have the opportunity to learn to take care of themselves more. Uh, and that partnership with athletic trainer, strength conditioning coach, AD coaching staff, where we will create a good system for every high school. I do see that starting to happen. But we're already at the point where it's starting to get bad before it gets better, in my opinion.
Yep. Yeah, I think some more important conversations are happening. I don't ever remember a time that the NCAA has actually really dug into it. I know that was a big topic at the D3 convention for NCAA, just kind of seeing some stuff on social media, and having been involved with that. So, yeah, I think conversations are starting to happen. What comes of that is always the question, but at least they're happening and it's being somewhat acknowledged. So, what has been the most influential resource you found in your career?
Colleagues, old mentors. The best resource is been the people you connect with. Social media has been great, and like this day and age where um, I can go find people through social media, connect with them, and talk, and having the ability to reach out, especially when you're in an island in a high school, having a community to confide in, just talk to, vent to, bounce ideas off of if you're stuck. Um, I think that's the best resource I have, is the people that I've come to know and grow with, and the friends I've made in the profession.
Well, I like it. That's a very common one, and for good reason.
Yeah.
Uh, we kind of talked about this one, but we're going to pin you down a little bit more on it. As an AT in your role, how do you take care of yourself?
Um, yeah, so I did comment just like with setting boundaries.
Yep.
That's like baseline. Um, it's part of me just wants to say like, this is what you should do. What I do is I freak out when no one knows and no one sees. But finding things that you can do that really help relax you is the best thing. Is setting time aside, giving yourself like mental breaks, Having people to check in on you and you check in on them for just like a random mental health check, like, dude, how are you doing? Like
Yep.
how are things? Are you okay? And is this one of those moments where you're just gonna tell me that you're okay when you're not, and you're gonna come to me when you're ready, or are you not okay right now and you're ready to talk about it?
Sure.
Um, we don't have to put the weight of the world on our shoulders. We have people, and learning to talk to those people is helpful. Learning to talk to yourself is helpful, and understanding yourself and really diving in and like figuring out why you're so stressed and understanding your own mental health. Those are some of the things that you can do, because yes, you are by yourself, but you're not by yourself at the same time for someone who's alone in a secondary setting.
Right. If you could change or eliminate one thing, could be a modality, common practice, mindset, anything of your choosing in athletic training, what would it be?
That's tough. There are a few modalities I hate because kids always say like, "I see this, you should get this." But the great thing is I have the answer of we don't have the money. So
All right, no budget.
yeah, no budget. You want to pay for it by all means. But let me sell you something that I think is better.
There you go.
But truthfully, I would say, as someone who's younger in the profession, I wish I could take the mentality of this unhealthy competition uh mentality that some people have. Um, we feel like we need to combat like with every other healthcare profession to prove how valid we are,
Sure.
to a sense where we're even in combat with ourselves. Um, and you see this on these Facebook groups, these other online forums where someone's posting something and then the judgment they get.
Yep.
And it's just like that's not helpful. Um, it's I understand that we've had to fight to get people to respect us. We don't need to fight ourselves. And a lot of us are incredibly competitive people. A lot of athletic trainers were athletes growing up. We have that competitive nature. And because we feel so much like we need to prove ourselves, we feel like we need to prove ourselves against each other, which it's it's tough. It's really tough to see. It's sad to see, especially like the divide between generations of athletic trainers, where it's just like you have athletic trainers who will speak poorly about other people that they know, to speak highly of themselves. And you're not doing yourself justice, you're not doing the other person justice or the profession justice, by trying to raise yourself up by bringing someone else down. Um, there are different ways to go about communicating with people if you have differing opinions and views. Um, and I wish I could take that. Like, I love competition. I
Yep.
love competition, but there are healthy levels of competition. And I think
Absolutely.
tearing people down is not good. Like, for us, for the profession, for young athletic trainers, because confidence is so big. Um, Really having the confidence to trust yourself, trust your diagnosis, and even having the confidence to admit that you don't know.
Yep.
We don't know. And always feeling like you're being judged and actually being judged, when you want to reach out for questions or help, it's tough. And I would change that. That's probably the one very common theme that I've seen that I am seeing a change in too, but I would, if I could just flip a switch and have it
Sure.
transition, I would do it now.
I could not agree more. We tend to seemingly get in our own way to not even be able to go and not fight or compete, but to just like find the better way with other professions and to grow it because we have enough so much infighting. And I personally believe there are enough people out there that need advice, help, care across the board. All of them can coexist.
Mhm.
They're in pockets of areas, sure, maybe there's not enough for a new business to open type of thing, but there's enough avenues for that people need expertise that we can all probably get along. Um, Last question. What does being an athletic trainer mean to you?
That being an athletic trainer to me means I am someone who truly gets to be there for people. Means being an athletic trainer means I get to make a difference in someone's life. I get to educate and treat for my athletes, um, and that's important. I get to give to my community and help people understand themselves in like a physical aspect of just understanding what their bodies are capable of, and how to take care of themselves. That's what it means to me is being the first healthcare professional that someone has access to. And I love that about the profession. I love that I get to do that every day. Some days more than others. But yeah, that's what it means to be is being someone who can be there for people and someone who's available for people for free and for regularly on a daily basis.
I like it. Great answer. Just to wrap up, if people wanted to connect with you, follow you, reach out, what would be the best place for them to do that?
Not very active on social media, but I'm trying to be.
Fair.
I from the people I've met back in NATA, like Matt and Jordan, they were very much saying like be more active on social media. Of course, them being incredibly active. Uh,
Right. Yeah. There's
I've been
definitely a continuum of where people can fall on that.
Yeah, but kind
Yeah.
of hanging out with them that weekend and seeing how simple they make it and trying to actually work to it. But right now it's just Twitter and Instagram. It's Dundee ATC. Those are my public social media accounts.
Perfect.
Um, and it's strictly like about work. I'll retweet, I need to post more, but
Sure.
those are the two things that people can follow me on if they would like to. And it's just Dundee, which is the city I work in, Dundee, and then ATC for both. Very simple and to the point.
I like it. Well, I appreciate you taking the time and having the patience while, we got to our actual quote unquote scheduled time by the time we worked through everything. But it was great to connect and look forward to connecting more in the future.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thanks for having me. I'm really glad that you reached out and gave me this opportunity. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I hope to kind of be in touch some more.
Sounds great.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Athletic Training Chat with Josh Morales. If you are in the secondary setting, I hope this validated a lot of what you're doing. If you aren't and looking to get in, hopefully it piqued your interest into it with the impact and the power that setting can have on those that you can serve. I know for me, it's always inspiring to hear these stories and how people, again, manage the workload and making sure that all of these patients, maybe not the easiest patients just by age and they're growing and everything that's going on, but all these patients can really benefit from having an athletic trainer, which I know and everybody else does. It's a huge movement within the profession. If you haven't heard or checked out the Athletic Training Daily Journal, you can check out a free sample at clinicallypress.org/shop. 14 days, kind of gives you an idea what it's all about. It's a journal with prompts specific to the profession and trying to get just more thought process going. Maybe it helps you solve a problem you've been stuck on, or just find a new insight into something you want to implement. Please check that out. It is also available on Amazon. Thank you again so much for listening, and we will catch you all next episode.